Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. The towering beast's voice thundered across the battlefield like an avalanche of rage. His jagged frame turned slightly, cracked muscles flexing with fury. Then that means Tarnak, the monarch of the iron body, has died by his hands as well. His burning eyes pierced through the dust-laden air as he locked eyes with Suho from across the cracked stone floor. A name was carved into the tension like a warning: the prisoner of the tomb, Amit. Suho's breath hitched as his gaze fixated on the monster. The sheer pressure radiating from Amit distorted the very air around them. This monster is called Amit. The name echoed in his thoughts like a curse. Since he mentioned the monarch of the iron body, does that mean he's an iron body-type monster? A storm of calculation brewed in Suho's mind. If he finds out who my father is, he might attack me. Suddenly, a scream cut through the rising dread. "Young monarch!" A desperate cry from behind. But the warning came too late. Amit lunged forward with terrifying speed, the earth fracturing beneath him. His foot struck the ground like a war drum, propelling his massive form straight at Suho with the fury of a rampaging god. Suho leapt aside, narrowly evading death. His voice rang out, laced with panic. "What are you doing?" But Amit's suspicion was already seething. "Given how slow you are to respond, you must be thinking up a lie." His voice was pure menace. "If you don't answer quickly, I will kill you." Suho clenched his fists as the tension hit a boiling point. This damn monster. His criteria for killing are too loose. Amit bared his fangs. "I'll ask you again. Did the monarch of the iron body die at the hands of the shadow monarch?" Suho's voice came low, steady. "That's right. He killed all the monarchs." But unease flickered in his eyes as he wondered. He's not going to go wild because that monarch died, is he? A flicker of unease darts across Suho's eyes as the monster bellows in bitter amusement. The realization dawns. This hulking beast had been waiting, all this time, for a confrontation. His voice, guttural and thunderous, rumbles out as if mocking fate itself. "I wondered why he no longer came looking for me." The realization crashes down like a curse. The shadow monarch ended him. That's why silence had followed. So he went to hell, huh? A low, dangerous grin creeps across the monster's face as the embers in his eyes glow crimson. His chained arms flex, and with a hint of twisted gratitude, he murmurs, "It seems I should give the shadow monarch my thanks." His amusement is chilling, an ominous warning of the chaos yet to come. Suho tenses. Something isn't right. He's laughing. His voice turns cold. "You weren't one of the monarch of the iron body's kin." Suho hesitates, and Amit answers himself. "Me? His kin." A snarl curls his lips. "I don't like the sound of that." With a sudden roar, he charges, monstrous muscles coiling like a spring loosed. The force of his lunge cracks the very earth beneath him. "Die." But Suho is ready. A glint of power flashes in his clenched hands. Amit's charge halts in shock as the cursed bindings coil around him, holding him mid-strike. "Chains." Suho thinks, gritting his teeth. The monstrous being thrashes. Familiar, hated restraints dig into his limbs. These damn chains again. Have I crossed the domain allowed to me? The realization burns through him as the spell tightens its grip. He's bound again. The sound of magic lashes the battlefield. Chains hiss and rattle, dragging across stone with terrifying speed. Amit's fury ignites. The tomb quakes from the backlash of his power. "These damn chains." The beast roars with rising madness. "Damn you, Tarnak. You damned spellcaster." His hatred surges through every syllable as he wrestles against the cursed shackles, trapped between wrath and the past he cannot escape. A violent quake rippled through the ground as Amit, still thrashing in resistance, roared in frustration. Suho stood still, silent, catching his breath as the chaos settled. The battlefield, once a storm of destruction, now faded into a strange calm. Confusion flickered in his eyes as he processed what had just happened. The chains that had come from nowhere, they had pulled the monster away. Suho's mind churned. What were they? Who had sent them? Despite the uncertainty, one thing was clear. He was safe, for now. A breath escaped him, heavy but relieved. At his side, Essel appeared, her voice laced with concern as she rushed to him. "Young monarch, are you all right?" she asked, her violet eyes scanning him for wounds. Suho nodded, still clutching his shoulder. Yeah. Down below, the battlefield was littered with the wounded and unconscious. Amid the chaos, Essel shifted focus. Given that we are now aware of that monster's existence, we should act with caution, she said, her voice regaining its composure. We should give Gray and the members of the Azura Guild emergency medical care while we can. But just as she spoke, Suho's eyes widened. A sharp gleam flashed across his vision, unnatural, violet, and digital. A sudden jolt passed through him as the system's interface burst into sight. A new quest. Urgent quest. Dimensional crack. A dimensional crack has been detected. Enter the connected gate and remove the cause of the dimensional crack. Something wasn't right. The quest, it was shifting. Lines of glowing script rearranged themselves in real time. Suho's gaze sharpened. Young monarch, is something wrong? Essel's voice brought him back. His voice was tense as he replied. The emergency quest changed. The new prompt glowed ominously before him. Urgent quest, dimensional crack. A dimensional crack has been detected. Enter the connected gate and free the heir of the iron body, Amit, from the pyramid. Shock rippled through his chest. That monster was the heir. Dust settled across the battlefield, revealing broken fragments of blackened armor and scattered corpses. A massive, twisted helm lay shattered, its sinister horns buried in stone. Farther ahead, Suho spotted another body, sprawled lifeless and cold. Essel moved beside him, silent, her expression grim. Those people, they're from the Scavenger Guild, Suho murmured. So they were annihilated by Amit here, he thought, the truth sinking in like a lead weight. But before the silence could deepen, a chilling presence stirred again. From the darkness, blood-red chains spread outward like a net, pulsing with magic. Suho's eyes narrowed, muscles tensing instinctively. Then, the voice came, deep, mocking. I can't believe you've come looking for me. Amit, restrained, yet far from defeated, stood encased in a web of red bindings. A sinister grin stretched across his face as his glowing eyes locked onto Suho. You've got some guts, human. The tension in the tomb lingered, even after the storm had calmed. Suho faced the hulking figure of Amit, the chains still binding the creature to the walls like cursed tendrils of fate. He stepped forward, voice steady, intent in his gaze. I came because I wanted to have a proper conversation with you. Amit growled in reply, the crimson bindings pulsing faintly around his limbs. Didn't we speak before? He hissed. Suho narrowed his eyes, raising his voice. You can't call it a conversation when you were trying to kill me. Amit paused. Is that so? The chains clinked as he shifted slightly, tone dipping lower with a venomous smirk. That was all I learned from Tarniak. If you're going to complain, send your complaints to his rotten corpse. Suho studied Amit with a mixture of fear and fascination. He's violent, but it's like I'm looking at an honest child, he thought. He rubbed his neck, sighing. I can't believe I have to recruit someone like this. Still, the question lingered in his mind, and he voiced it aloud. It seemed like you didn't like the monarch of the iron body, but could you tell me why? Amit's eyes flared crimson, chains rattling with irritation. You came to me because you were curious about that, of all things? Then his anger cooled slightly. Well, since the only pastime I have is being tied up by chains, I might as well tell you. A low hum of darkness resonated from his body as his name echoed through the air like a curse. My name is Amit. The infernal chains glowed. His eyes burned beneath the shadow of his helm. I was created by the monarch of the iron body, Tarniak, and a spellcaster. Then they abandoned me in this tomb. Suho's gaze sharpened. The monarch and a spellcaster created you? Amit nodded, hatred dripping from every syllable. That's right. The two of them turned a normal man like me into this. I've been abandoned in this tomb, filled to the brim with the dead, tied up by these infernal chains. The weight of his pain was heavy, even more than his frame. Suho asked, quietly, You can't break the chains? Amit's claws clenched, the air shuddering around him. These chains were made with magic. Even if I break them, if I get too far away, they appear again. Because of them, I've never even entered the depths of this tomb. A pause, then a whisper, more venomous than any roar. I will never forgive Tarniak and the spellcaster that decided to torment me this way. Suho turned away for a moment, deep in thought. A new notification had confirmed what he feared. The quest's contents tell me to free Amit. His thoughts spiraled. I have to get rid of those chains binding Amit, one way or another. But how can I get rid of these chains when they keep reappearing? His eyes scanned the heavy red links embedded into the structure, glowing ominously. If it were just a matter of pulling out those stakes, then I'm sure Amit would have done that already. Then, a flicker of realization crossed his face. Wait, stakes. Amit loomed, suspended in chains, his monstrous body towering over Suho. The young monarch's voice cut through the tense air, calm but probing. Amit, were the monsters already here when you were sealed inside? With a toothy grin and a deep, guttural voice, the beast answered plainly, "That's right." "Then does that mean you aren't the master of this dungeon?" Amit's expression twisted, his tone laced with indifference. "I am not the master of this place." He pressed further, his voice steady. "Then have you ever seen a room with a large steel door in this tomb?" The chains rattled slightly as Amit shifted. "I only know of this room, as I've never explored the depths of this tomb due to these chains." A growl followed his words. "Why are you bombarding me with all these damn questions?" But Suho's mind was already racing. His inner thoughts churned with suspicion. That's odd. There wouldn't have been a problem letting Amit roam around inside the dungeon. So why did that spellcaster make the chains reappear after Amit is a set distance away from here? His eyes narrowed, gaze sharp with realization. If my theory is right, then he looked up at Amit and called out with resolve. "Amit, if I free you from this place, will you listen to a request of mine?" Amit's eyes flickered with a cautious light. "Are you saying you are going to free me?" His massive form leaned forward, teeth bared. "Whatever you do, if you manage to free me, I'll do whatever you say." A sudden darkness entered his tone. "Are you saying you're going to kill that spellcaster when you don't know his whereabouts? Or have you perhaps found a method to lift this spell?" Amit's energy surged with menace. "If you dared to speak such words as a mere joke." Chains crackled with magical fury as his muscles tensed, power coursing through him. The ground split beneath his force. "Are you aware of what will happen to you?" Amit's voice echoed. From the sidelines, Essel's voice cracked with concern. "Young monarch?" But Suho's voice remained clear, unwavering. "Just listen to me before you make a decision." Amit's eyes narrowed as Suho continued, his words like a spark on dry kindling. "I'm going to make this dungeon collapse." Amit reeled back, surprised. "You said you couldn't enter the depths of this dungeon because of the chains, right?" Suho's voice grew firm with logic and certainty. "If that's according to the spellcaster's intentions, isn't that because he was concerned about you killing the dungeon master?" His final words rang out with quiet intensity. "Then if the dungeon collapses after killing the dungeon master," Suho's voice rang out with calm conviction, his gaze fixed on the bound beast before him. He posed a question not of pity, but of logic. What would become of the stakes binding the chains once they served no purpose? If the source was severed, wouldn't the shackles crumble under the weight of their own irrelevance? The idea lingered in the air like embers carried on wind. Amit's eyes flared wide, the flickering aura of dark energy rising around his hulking frame. And then, as if the absurdity of the logic tickled something primal in him, his grin split wider, cruel, beastly, and amused. "What an entertaining idea," he growled, the sound guttural, almost pleased. The atmosphere changed. A shift echoed from deep within the tomb, and in a flash, a pair of glowing white eyes blinked into view. Baru's form materialized out of the darkness, the fluttering particles of shadow still clinging to him like smoke. "Young monarch," Baru whispered, his voice laced with confusion and disbelief. "Why have you chosen this uncivilized reptile to be by your side instead of this Baru?" Amit scoffed, his voice laced with disdain. "Stop acting like some fruit fly ant." "Fruit fly? Do you wish to die at the hands of my original body?" Baru shrieked in indignation. The air between them cracked with tension, their animosity tangible even in shadow. Amit's expression twisted, not with fury, but bemusement. Amusing. Who would have thought this child would be the Shadow Monarch's son? With a rumble, Amit stomped forward, muscles coiling and claws dragging against the stone floor. "This is the furthest I can go within the tomb," he muttered. "It's been quite some time since the Shadow's heir went on ahead." He paused, tension rippling through his frame. The stakes of the plan were high. If Suho failed to defeat the dungeon master, both the mission and Amit's hopes would shatter together. But something in Suho's unwavering expression burned with certainty. However, for whatever reason, I could feel conviction in his voice. Suho turned back, the flicker of a grin tugging at his lips. Then, if I get you out of here, you'll hear me out, yeah? And deep within the storm of that moment, Amit's memories stirred. Tarnak. The very name echoed like an oath and wound all at once. He who claimed that physical might alone define strength. He who forged Amit from that brutal philosophy. But even a god of iron had overlooked something simple. Even those weaker than him could stand taller when their will was unshaken. A surge of power radiated through the chamber as the thought took root. If it's that kid, he might be able to free me from this place. As Suho charged forth, his body wrapped in streaks of electric blue energy. With one explosive burst, he slammed his fist into the stone warrior, the entire chamber shaking beneath the shockwave of his assault. Cracks split across the floor like lightning bolts in the earth, debris flying outward as he leapt again, fists crashing down to shatter the foundation. The very bones of the tomb groaned under the weight of his onslaught. Suho landed with a hard breath, steadying himself amid the dust cloud. His eyes burned with unwavering resolve. Behind him, Essel readied her weapon once more, stepping through the settling haze with precision and calm. Now there's just one left, Suho said, his voice low but resolute. High above them, overlooking the fractured chaos, loomed a final presence. At the top of a wide staircase, shadowed in smoke and grandeur, stood a towering figure, its form encased in obsidian armor, glowing red with malice and command. The tomb's warden, Sheikah. A silent but unmistakable pressure rolled through the air as the final trial stepped into the light. Chains whipped through the air like angry serpents as Amit lunges toward the swirling vortex of the shadow dungeon. But before he can make contact, crimson-red bindings erupt and lock him in place. The cursed chains shimmer violently, reacting to the very thought of escape with unrelenting force. The creature growls, his massive arms bound in magic that pulses like living veins. As expected, the chains are getting in the way even when you try to enter the shadow dungeon, Suho remarks, watching the display with cool calculation. Amit's voice is a bitter rasp as he strains against the bindings. The moment I have thoughts like, I want to leave this place, the chains would appear and restrain me. Suho narrows his eyes, his tone composed. What a troublesome spell. Well, it's not like I thought this would work. I was just trying to confirm it. Suho then shifts into plan mode. There are two things in our plan we need to do first. 1. Defeat the boss monster and make the dungeon collapse. A floating image appears of him and Essel in motion. 2. Destroy the pillars to disable the chains. The visual projection changes again. Amit, finally free, joining them in battle. Then all three of them leaping toward the swirling portal. Once that's done, we'll enter the shadow dungeon and escape this collapsing hell. Amit's voice cuts through the strategy. If we fail either of the two tasks, will this whole thing fail? Suho smirks slightly, his eyes flickering with resolve. I do have a backup plan if we do fail, but Amit snaps, forget it. His voice hardens as he stares down at the floor, jaw clenched. Whatever happens, it's better than being trapped in here. Suddenly, a tremendous gust erupts from down the corridor. The wind howls as the tomb's warden, Sheikah, roars forward with a storm of dust and sand curling around his massive form. His clawed feet strike the ground with thunderous force. In the next heartbeat, Sheikah launches himself forward, wrapped in a spiral of ferocious energy, descending like a meteor upon the distant figure of Suho, who braces calmly for the devastating blow. Suho dropped from the air like a falling star, his eyes burning with an unrelenting blue fire. Energy crackled around him, sharpening into a jagged edge of pure force as he launched straight down at the monstrous warden below. Lightning laced his scythe with a blinding brilliance, each slash illuminating the shadows that writhed across the battlefield. He struck with a flurry of rapid blows, but the creature's sand-armored defense coiled and repelled his every assault. He was thrown back violently, tumbling through the air as sand surged to counter. Gritting his teeth, Suho steadied himself midair. His thoughts raced. The tomb's warden, Sheikah, its overwhelming presence was a wall he couldn't breach. The heat of the battle pressed in on him. The monster's name burned crimson, a signal that its rank surpassed A-class, perhaps even higher. And he couldn't close the gap. Waves of enchanted sand surged from the creature like a living shield. Breathing heavily, Suho realized time was slipping through his fingers. His mana wouldn't last much longer. The longer the battle dragged, the worse his odds became. He needed to end this, and fast. In one swift motion, a figure appeared. Essel burst forward, ducking past a vicious spear that tore through the air. Gathering every last ounce of his strength, Suho raised his glowing hand. Energy spiraled and compressed in his palm, vibrating with violent force. With a final cry, he unleashed it. The searing light streaked across the arena, crashing into Sheikah with a devastating impact that shattered the air and rocked the chamber in a blinding pulse of raw magic. A deadly spear slices through the air like a silver crescent of destruction, its edge spinning with lethal speed as it narrowly misses Sheikah. The towering figure of Sheikah, the tomb's warden, looms behind it, his immense arms still outstretched. Dark sand billows around him like smoke, a veil of death cloaking his form and menace. From the heart of the chaos, Suho shouts with clarity and resolve, "Essel, let's use the bond skill." His voice cuts through the storm as clearly as a blade, and his intent is unmistakable. This is the moment they've been building toward. Essel's eyes widen with elation. "Yes, young monarch," she cries, her expression radiant with long-awaited purpose. Finally, she has the chance to stand beside him in battle, not just as a bystander, but as a warrior. She recalls the grim lesson she learned roaming the gates. The bond skill had a specific requirement, one steeped in blood and survival. With every monster she defeated, their souls had been absorbed to charge the skill, stockpiling power in silence. Now, the ominous black and red energy coils around her like a summoned specter. If I kill monsters, she reflects, I'll absorb their souls, and the charging rate of the bond skill will increase. With a surge of crimson fury, the energy ignites. A spectral force twists violently from her body, burning with accumulated rage and vengeance from countless battles. The ground trembles as the explosive release spirals toward the battlefield, a torrent of black and red power unfurling like a storm's wrath. Suho propels forward, riding the tide of his unleashed power. His body cuts through the air like a shadow wrapped in fire, and his crimson aura clashes against the swirling sand and darkness around Sheikah. From the side, Essel watches Suho fight with everything he has, and her heart burns with a new emotion. "Oh, I've only shown the pathetic side of me to the young monarch so far," she thinks. Regret flashes in her eyes, but it hardens into resolve. "I hope my bond skill with him will be of help to him." Behind her, Sheikah charges again, faster now, stronger. His golden fist surges forward like a comet, and the impact of this clash draws near. The bond skill, Demon Blast, surges to 67% charge. A powerful directive follows. Draw forth the energy of the descendant of white flames and release it as a devastating force. Suho's arm flares with a blinding red aura, his gaze locked in intensity, determination etched across his face. With a clenched fist pulsing with otherworldly fire, he channels every last ounce of strength into one focused strike, one that will decide everything. The blow connects. A storm of crimson explodes outward, overwhelming his opponent in a torrent of destructive energy. The sheer power of the blast engulfs Suho himself in a chaotic whirlwind of flame and force. His silhouette vanishes into the epicenter of the blast. Far from the battlefield, Baru senses the tremor. His wide eyes glow in shock. A second later, an enormous quake ripples through the dungeon. The dark skies within the ruins tremble. The shadows themselves seem to recoil. Other monsters freeze, the vibration reaching even the deepest corners. One of them gasps in horror. This is... The ground convulses underfoot. The dungeon is collapsing. Amit realizes, staring at the trembling walls. The implication is clear. They've done it. The dungeon master has fallen. Victory belongs to the young monarch. In a hidden chamber, a series of chained locks begin to glow violently. Symbols etched in crimson start to crack and burst. The bindings scream under the pressure, and one by one, the chains shatter with explosive force. Debris rains down, walls crumble, and the sealed mechanisms begin to give way. And then Baru calls out, urgency in his voice. Alligator, follow me. We're going to the young monarch. Behind him, a massive figure slowly rises, the light from the bond illuminating his hulking frame. The chains that once tethered him pulse threateningly. If the chains don't get in my way, a slow, heavy step crushes the tile beneath it. I'll finally be freed from Tarnak. Dark memories came flooding back. He could never forget the torment that birthed him into this grotesque form. He still didn't understand why he, a mere demon, was chosen for the horrid experiments of Tarnak and the spellcaster. But the pain was unforgettable. Each day, his body was torn apart, only to be stitched back together by arcane magic. A cycle of destruction and regeneration that numbed his soul and warped his sanity. Tarnak would reduce him to a bloodied ruin, and the spellcaster would restore him, again and again. Over time, the torment molded his flesh into something stronger, more enduring. But his mind fared worse. Unable to withstand the agony, he gouged out his own eyes, desperate to silence the world and turn suffering into numbness. He transformed into something that could savor pain rather than cower from it. And yet, through the darkness of his torment, a faint desire had always endured. It was a memory, one soft and radiant amid the storm of cruelty. A vision of serene forest light breaking through dense canopies. He remembered standing beneath it as a child, the pure wonder of nature embracing him. That image kept him alive. The desire to once again witness that untainted beauty, to feel it against his skin. He lifted his heavy, chained limbs. Dust swirled around his feet. If he could just reach that memory, if he could make that happen, then suddenly, the chains reacted. A surge of power exploded from his core as he roared, snapping the bindings in a violent red flare. The noise cracked through the air. In the distance, eyes wide with alarm. Alligator, Baru growled through clenched jaws. The fight for freedom had begun. A monstrous roar echoed through the crumbling dungeon as the beast's eyes locked onto the falling stakes. Massive chains descending like death itself. With panic flashing in his mind, the thought struck him like lightning. The stakes are flying towards me. His body twisted instinctively, but it was too late. A thunderous crash erupted as the cursed metal pierced into the stone around him, narrowly missing his massive frame. A bloodied roar cuts through the chaos. Amit's voice, trembling with fury and desperation. Tarnak, spellcaster. The iron stakes rain around him like divine punishment. His cry echoes, raw and enraged. You'd rather kill me than let me go? Chains scream as another stake tears through the sky. But this time, a flash of obsidian and cerulean light interrupts the attack. Suho, cloaked in shadow and lightning, charges in with brutal precision. His foot shatters one of the stakes mid-air as Baru leaps at his side, the battlefield a blur of motion. Sparks fly, metal groans, but the assault doesn't stop. Young monarch. Baru's concern cracks through the sound of combat. Suho's brow furrows, arms aching with effort. The stakes are so darn tough. The monstrous chains recoil and coil again like serpents. Another stake launches, whistling violently as it spins with lethal intent. Suho pivots mid-air, eyes narrowing. It's coming back to strike again. If the chains aren't letting Amit go, his decision sharpens instantly. I'll have to move the stakes. In a flurry of momentum, he shoots forward. Each strike of his weapon is a thunderclap, slamming into the ground, dislodging the monstrous anchors with explosive bursts of shadow power. One by one, the cursed chains are uprooted, shattering the field into a chaotic vortex of energy and broken earth. And then, silence before the storm. High above the shadow dungeon, the cursed red chains arc like comets in reverse, ripped from their hold and launched skyward. Buildings tremble beneath the force, the skyline fracturing as darkness coils in the clouds. Amit lifts his massive head, red eyes wide with disbelief and a tinge of sorrow. Sung Suho. His voice echoes across the ruins, filled with a wounded plea. Why are you doing that? Chains clash violently against a barrier of glowing will, as Suho pushes himself further into the storm of impact. Lightning crackles from his gauntlets while blood splashes across his skin. His face twists in pain and resolve, his thoughts roaring louder than the chaos around him. What do they want so badly that they'd force him to endure this much agony? His body strains against the resistance, bones threatening to give out as he grits his teeth. Through bloodshot eyes and raw exhaustion, a thought pierces the madness. He's nearing his limit. The damage is catching up, but the stakes don't relent. Suho leaps again, slamming one of the anchored chains to shift its trajectory. Amid the chaos, realization hits. Tarnak, the other monarchs, all of them fell to the power of the Shadow Monarch. And now, that same overwhelming presence, burning and unyielding, pulses inside him. His breath trembles as he understands the impossible weight he carries. Amit's voice cuts through the storm. All they need to do is redirect the stakes into the gate. That will be the final act. The last stand. With battered limbs and scorched armor, the two prepare to strike one last time together, his shout echoing through the space. Young monarch. And beneath the shaking sky, the vortex spins, sucking in everything around it. Elsewhere, distant from the battlefield's fury, a girl stirs among crumbled debris. Essel twitch. Fingers flex. She rises slowly, the violet strands of her hair spilling over her shoulders as her senses return. Floating nearby, Baru watches her with concern. Are you up? Her voice, drowsy but steady, whispers back. Baru. Baru hovered tensely above the Essel. She recalled the moment the young monarch had returned her to the shadow dungeon, her energy completely drained. She trembled at the memory. She was still shaken. How is he right now? What about Amit? Baru, uncharacteristically firm, motioned with a clawed hand. Shh, be quiet. She paused, her breath caught in her throat. They're resting right now, he whispered, the flickering light of the dungeon dimly reflecting in his bug-like eyes. Her lips parted in disbelief as her gaze shifted. Her eyes welled with emotion. Young monarch. From across the battlefield's aftermath, Suho and Amit sat there, alive. A surge of disbelief and awe filled the chamber. You did it. The notifications burst forth like divine proclamations, one after another. Alert. You have recruited the heir of the Iron Body as your teammate. Alert. You have completed the urgent quest, Dimensional Crack. Alert. You have leveled up. Alert. The quest rewards have arrived. Alert. Would you like to check the rewards? Yes/no. Beyond the dungeon, in a quiet room, a cup of tea steamed peacefully atop a pristine desk. The world outside was already stirring. A figure in a suit stared at his tablet as it displayed a familiar face. The screen flickered with a headline. Something started upon the disappearance of Hunter Sung Jin-Woo. The man leaned back solemnly, eyes glinting with the weight of knowledge. The hunters and gates started to appear again. Thanks to the memories of the previous world which Hunter Sung Jin-Woo gave me, I was able to quickly set up the Hunter Association and put away the chaos of the Great Cataclysm. The existence of Stardust means that something which didn't happen in the previous world is happening right now. A swirling orb of blue energy floated before him, glowing with mysterious promise. A stimulant that didn't exist in the previous world, but is able to increase the mana of low-rank hunters without any side effects. And with that revelation, a new chapter of humanity's evolution had quietly begun. All they had uncovered so far was that the mysterious substance known as Stardust was being circulated by Lee Min-sung, the vice leader of the Grim Reaper Guild. The man investigating this walked through the shadows with purpose, piecing together the deeper web behind the scenes. With the guild master, Hunter Lim Taegyu, currently overseas, it was likely that Lee Min-sung was orchestrating this without oversight. But that only raised more suspicion. He wasn't convinced Min-sung was capable of orchestrating such widespread distribution alone. In the previous world, this level of activity would have been impossible for someone like him, which meant someone else was pulling the strings from the dark. His eyes narrowed toward the glowing screen before him. A call came through. An unexpected voice broke the tense silence. "It's so rare of you to call me, sir," the man said respectfully. The voice on the other side hesitant. "Sorry for calling so suddenly," the man replied. "You helped the Hunter Association a lot in our early years. You can contact me anytime." "I'm contacting you because I need the Hunter Association's help." "Our help?" came the quiet, curious reply. "My nephew, he's awakened as a hunter," Jin-Woo finally admitted, anxiety cracking his voice. and I think he's trapped in a gate. Please help him, Mr. Jin-Sheol. The name sent a jolt through the older man as his grip on the phone tightened. A single name escaped his lips, his voice grave and uncertain. Mr. Jin-Ho, by your nephew, do you mean? A pause, followed by a whisper heavy with disbelief and realization. So, the desert winds swirled with a golden haze as a convoy of vehicles rolled across the sand-swept wasteland. Inside one of them, ReAwakening sat quietly among his exhausted comrades, their bodies slumped in silence, bathed in the orange light of the setting sun. His breath was shallow, his mind drifting. But a voice called out through the haze. ReAwakening, ReAwakening. His eyelids fluttered. The voice grew louder. Wake up! Rio jerked awake to the sight of Suho leaning over him, eyes full of concern. Rio groaned, still groggy. Suho, the dungeon has been cleared, Suho said with a smile, his tone light. Also, can I borrow your phone for a while? Still dazed, Rio repeated softly, the dungeon. But even before he could finish the sentence, the realization hit him like a wave. The once deadly pyramid field had been cleared. All of it gone. Back at the airport, under the gentle hues of twilight, travelers bustled about. Suho walked through the terminal with a few familiar faces from the expedition. Suho, I won't forget how you saved us in the pyramid field, one of them said earnestly. Let's keep in contact even after you go back to Korea. Thank you so much for helping me get a flight back to Korea, Suho replied with a grateful nod. And also for helping me get in contact with my uncle. Uncle's eyes widened in disbelief. What? You went to Egypt for a gate? I'm glad you're safe. I thought something bad had happened to you. Suho's expression turned contemplative. Uncle said he reported this to an acquaintance of his in the Hunter Association. I might have to visit the Hunter Association soon. But something continued to gnaw at him. A puzzle left unsolved. This is so strange. A demon monster that seemed to be S rank or above would retreat and allow the dungeon to collapse. Suho furrowed his brow and added, yeah, it's strange. Something wasn't right. Suho forces a smile, sweat trailing his cheek. I got really lucky, he says, though the glint in his eyes betrays the weight behind those words. He can't bring himself to say what really happened. A cold, distant flash overtakes the memory. Bound in red and black chains that pulsed with ancient energy, Amit's monstrous limbs twitch faintly. The rattling metal echoes in the silence, a reminder that the beast remains shackled deep within the shadow domain. The heavy stillness is broken as Suho faces the restrained giant once again. In the end, Amit's chains couldn't be taken off. His voice is calm, resolute. And you can't leave the shadow dungeon either. Amit's crimson eyes gleam, no longer blazing with rage, but watching, listening. Suho continues, since I didn't release your seal, are you not going to keep your promise? A rumble vibrates the air. Don't be too worried, comes Amit's low, gravelly reply. The original promise was for you to take me out of the tomb. The tension softens, not out of comfort, but mutual understanding. The beast speaks with a strange calm, his tone no longer wild or violent. Maybe it's because the stakes are all over the place, but I'm able to have a bigger range of movement in here, Amit muses. His long, coiled chain flickers in and out of view like a serpent shifting in the shadows. This is much more comfortable compared to that tiny tomb. Amit's massive presence still radiates power, but his aura has changed. Suho observes quietly. Amit's vibe has changed a lot, Amit continues. Also, then, without warning, Amit with Suho launches himself into the air. A violent gust explodes outward. Essel recoils with wide eyes. Young monarch, from above, Suho crashes down, his momentum splitting the wind as he lands beside the towering Amit with shadow tendrils swirling at his feet. Darkness pulses around them like a storm on the edge of release. The rooftop stretches out before them. The world below seems like a dream suspended in purple haze. Amit gazes across the landscape, black wings folding behind his colossal frame. Although it's faint, I can feel the great nature that I've missed in this place. His crimson eyes flicker, then lock onto Suho. As promised, I'll follow you, young monarch. A soft breath leaves Suho as he turns, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Amit. Elsewhere, Suho walks toward the terminal gates with his backpack slung over one shoulder. As the lights from the airport cast long shadows across the corridor, he reflects silently. A gate had opened in the shadow dungeon. An urgent quest had pulled him in. But maybe it was fate that brought him to meet Amit. As he raises a hand in parting, he speaks to the man standing behind. "I'll see you again, Rio Singh." Rio watches him walk away, his expression caught between awe and disbelief. "Sung Suho," he murmurs, taken aback. The young man can summon monsters, fight, even transform. Yet he's officially just a B-rank hunter? It doesn't add up. Something about Suho doesn't fit within conventional boundaries. But Suho, now alone, has his thoughts elsewhere. "I must contact my guild and get them to scout him," he thinks, unaware that Rio Singh is thinking the same about him. Boarding the flight, Baru reflects on the time since he last traveled this way. "It's been a long time since I took a plane," Suho whispers with a soft smile. The gate to Korea had been closed for so long. This was the only route. Yet amidst the casual moments, there is a quiet fire in his thoughts. He had managed to level up 7 times from defeating the boss and completing the urgent quest. The system window appears in his vision, laying out his progress with clarity. Sung Suho, level 35. Strength 70. Agility 44. Sense boosted. He was getting stronger, fast. Within the hum of the aircraft, Suho consults his ever-present companion. "Baru, in my current state, what hunter rank do you think I can be classified as?" The answer comes back immediately. "I think you're around A rank." Suho closes his eyes for a moment, letting the weight of those words settle. "I'm now A rank, huh?" His gaze sharpens with intent. "It seems my preparations are mostly done." The plane banks slightly, morning light cascading through the windows. Suho tightens his grip on his straps and whispers with resolution. "Time to launch our counterattack against Lee Min-sung and the Iterim Apostle." Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.